Joel Berry, welcome to Washington Times Higher Ground. So I want to dive right into the Babylon Bee because a lot of people, they're Bee fans. They see the headlines, they see the tweets, they read the stories. But what is it like? What is a day in the life working at the Bee like?
Well, it's very fun, and the thing that kind of surprises people when I tell them about what we do and the people who work here is that we're all just a bunch of regular people. Like there are no kind of classically trained, pedigreed comedy writers here. We're just dudes that have day jobs. We have surgeons, engineers, teachers, housewives, just kind of normal people from all across the country. We share a common kind of internet chat together. And what I'm doing is I'm getting up in the morning. I'm getting a sense for what the news cycle is going to do that day. I'm looking at all the news sites and reading all the kind of the terrible, depressing, awful news, that everyone reads when they first boot up their phone every morning. And I'm thinking, okay, what's funny about this stuff? What can we what can we joke about? And I'll kind of bullet point. Here are some things that I think we need to touch on today. I'll send it out to the writers, and then from say 8 a.m. to around 12 p.m., we're just pitching hundreds and hundreds of article ideas back and forth, kind of tweaking and fine tuning, and maybe settling on 2, 3, or 4 headlines to start with. And we'll publish, anywhere from 7 to 8 articles a day. And that those will range from timely political things to everyday family life and church jokes. We still publish church jokes. People don't always realize that. And sometimes just things from daily life. Sometimes we'll be in an argument with our wives, and we get a headline idea, out of that, and so it's fun. It's really just a bunch of regular people kind of spilling their brains into this common Slack channel, and it's a great time.
Well, so it sounds fun. I'd love to actually be a fly on the wall in that Slack channel. So as you're kind of doing this, I would imagine you guys get a lot of response, a lot of positive response, people laughing. I would imagine you probably get some responses from people who aren't happy about some of the content too. Or am
Yeah.
I imagining wrong?
Yeah, we get a lot of negative responses, a lot of people who are very, very angry. And you know what? It's always kind of funny when you have people who are angry at a joke. It's never a good look to be angry at a joke, And so I think that's kind of our superpower is that we put these things out. They're funny to us. They're funny to a lot of people. And then you kind of always have that person in the corner kind of wagging their fingers, scolding us as to why this or that joke wasn't appropriate. And we catch it from all sides. We even catch it from the Christian world. Sometimes we poke fun at Christians, and certain people don't like that, and that's fine. That's just comedy, I think. But I think the funniest thing about this whole thing and what the Bee has become is that we're just a bunch of very boring Christian guys. Like we're not edgy comedians. We don't cuss in our humor. We don't have a lot of what comedians call blue comedy that's really dirty. We're very, but we have this reputation as being extremely edgy and transgressive, and that we earned that reputation just by speaking the common sense truth, And I think that's kind of a funny irony of what we're doing.
Yeah, when you guys are sharing those headlines and kind of going back and forth and riffing, I would imagine even in the news world, a lot of times people will write 10, 15 more headlines and they kind of narrow it down to one. I would imagine there's a process there. Is there ever a time where you say, okay, that goes too far, we need to pull back? Like how does that conversation
Yes.
go in the Babylon Bee newsroom?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, something that the comedian Steve Harvey said one time, I think he was talking with Jerry Seinfeld about this, is that whenever there's a crisis or a tragedy that happens in the news, every comedian in the world immediately has jokes to tell about it, and then you kind of have to have that battle with yourself, like, okay, is this joke appropriate to tell? Is it too soon? How do I phrase it to where maybe the victim is not the butt of the joke? We've kind of gone too far a couple times with those things. We've crossed the line on occasion. It is hard because we don't have a whole lot of time to refine our jokes. Sometimes I think Jerry Seinfeld, for example, he talks about how he'll have a joke idea and he'll refine it and tweak it over 4 years. Sometimes just to the granular level of shaving off syllables here and there, changing a word there to get it just so and just perfect. And so what we'll do is when we have a funny idea, yeah, we're workshopping it. We're kind of trying to find the punchiest way of phrasing it that'll get the most impact, while also not not crossing a line to where you don't want the inappropriateness of the joke to overshadow how funny it is. If you're going to be slightly inappropriate or slightly transgressive, it better be funny. That's the rule.
Well, and I think you guys do a really good job of poking fun at things in a way that actually brings the truth of what you're poking fun out without having to say it. And that's a really
Yeah.
hard thing to do, right? But you do that because you target the headlines, you go after the things that are happening. And one area that you guys have been really prolific in of late is book writing. You've been putting out these books. You have a new book. It's the Babylon Bee Guide to Gender, the comprehensive handbook to men, women, and millions of new genders we just made up. Tell us a little bit about this book.
Yeah, well, this book was a blast to write. I always tell people that when you log onto our website or you see our articles on your social media feed, that is the Babylon Bee writers at their most mature and restrained. And these books were just unleashed, and they're the most immature, silly things that you've ever picked up and read. And we just had a blast with it. So this book is full of illustrations. It's a guide, kind of a fake guidebook, a how-to book, how to be a good person by acknowledging and affirming gender ideology. We have a lot of stick figures and illustrations that kind of drive our point home a little bit in a very funny way. You can pick up this book, turn to any page, and you're going to find something that'll make you laugh. And so we really enjoy writing these books because it gives us the chance to kind of play around in ways that you don't typically get to see on our site. So if you want to see the Babylon Bee guys at their craziest, check out the book for sure.
Well, and a lot of people, they run away from fire, right? When they see a fire, they don't want to be, but you guys, you run towards it. And in this case, you're going after an issue that a lot of people are talking about. It's obviously a major issue culturally right now, that the gender revolution, whatever people want to call it. Why do you think this issue has become as big and sweeping as it has?
Yeah, well, the groundwork for this ideology has been laid for many years, and it really goes back to the oldest fight in existence, which is the fight between good and evil, the fight between Lucifer and the Creator God, when he said, "I will be like the Most High." I'm not going to let God define me. I am going to define me. And this is just human beings. I think it all boils down to human beings have decided we will not worship God. We are going to be our own gods. This is kind of the latest iteration of that age-old fight, and so. I think it seemed to have been foisted upon us suddenly. I think that it'll probably collapse just as quickly under the weight of its own foolishness. And then another lie will come along. There will be something else to write a book about, because this lie always takes new forms, as in different cultures and different ages. So this is the battle that we're fighting right now, and it's just funny. It's you don't have to do much stretching of the truth or exaggeration to make gender ideology really funny.
Well, it's like the God of the self paradigm that we keep seeing. And this is not a new paradigm. It's something that has existed
Yeah.
since the beginning of time. People putting themselves in the center, making themselves gods. There are some different elements to it, I think, right now. Technology, the fact that this is so sweeping, it's so widespread. But you're right. There'll be another lie that comes along after. I think the change in this conversation really came when it went from, you do you, live your life the way you want to live your life, and I'll live the way I want to live my life. But when you have that dynamic being obliterated and people saying, well, if you don't identify the way I want to identify, if you don't agree or co-sign, then you're a bad person and you shouldn't have a job, and I'm going to go after you. That dynamic is, I think, what may make it collapse. I don't know if you want to reflect on that at all.
Yeah, because the belief and the ideology, the things that they say, can't stand alone. They can't stand on their own 2 feet. They're illogical. They're nonsensical, and so they require, for the ideology to survive, they require almost a religious devotion on their part, and then they require the rest of the world to play along and basically to play pretend. And as soon as you start questioning it, it does kind of fall like a house of cards. And that in that sense, this ideology really has become a religion that has to be taken on faith because it just doesn't make sense when you think about it for more than 2 seconds.
Does any part of you, when you're working on a book like this and you know it's going to be a tough topic, is there any part of you that says, should I do this? Should we do something else? Like, is there any, or are you just kind of like, you know what? This is comedy. We're going to live it up and do it.
No, I think early on when I first started with a B, I was a little more maybe hesitant about certain things. And our editor in chief, Kyle Mann, he's always trying to encourage us, like, go hard to the paint. Be brutal, run into the fire. This is where the fight is. Don't shy away from it. And I've kind of grown in that, I think, over the years of doing this. And we hope that it's contagious. We want other people to be doing this too. I know that I think maybe it's easier for me to say my job isn't at risk, because I get paid to do this for a living. But there are a lot of people who are in workplace situations or family situations where God at some point is going to call you to speak up one way or another and to take a stand at great risk to yourself and your career. And we hope that our role, our small role at the Babylon Bee, can just be to hopefully give people courage and encouragement as they take those stands.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important piece of this too, having the encouragement. I think a lot of people, they have a belief set, they have a traditional belief set, they're Christians, and they look out and they see people getting canceled, they see censorship, and they panic, right? Like you were just saying, they get worried and then they become silenced. One of the things I think the Babylon Bee does is through laughter makes people realize they're not alone in what they're thinking
Mhm.
and believing, right? That's an important, I think, element for people to experience and feel. And it's easy. I mean, I live in New York, right? So nobody agrees with
Okay.
me around me at all. So it's really easy to think maybe I am the only person who thinks this, when in
Mm.
reality, you guys are opening a door. I think that proves that that's not the case.
Agreed. Yeah. And it's funny. Social media has done its best to kind of squelch that a little bit. So you're not going to see a lot of our stuff on social media anymore, where people would, kind of have this camaraderie in the comments section and share it with their friends. But what I've noticed, and this is just kind of anecdotally, people I've talked to, even pastors and leaders, politicians, most of our article sharing, I think, is done just by screenshots of people texting it to their friends, kind of just like underground, apart from social media, so that it's still getting around. People are still kind of having this camaraderie in this shared experience, which is really, really encouraging. People are still finding a way to come together around the truth, which is great.
And you guys are finding new ways to get the truth out. The book is The Babylon Bee Guide to Gender. You can grab it wherever books are sold. Joel, appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.